happy Monday, March 20th, 2023, and welcome to a brand new edition of what I like to call the Isolation Cabin. I am your host, the vegan you believe in, Kirk Cadet, in the flesh as always. And here on the Isolation Cabin, we like to talk about the different forms isolation takes on, whether positive or negative, the effects it has on you, and what you can do to have a better handle on it going forward. So with that being said, let's get into today's topic. Now, last week I spoke about not isolating yourself from your family, especially when they're family that loves you, cares about you, and does mean well for you. But this week I want to do something a little bit different. Today I'm going to talk about the opposite form of isolation that goes in that direction, where you isolate yourself from family that's toxic, negative, and means you more harm than good. As I mentioned on last week's episode, no family is perfect. Every family fights and argues at one point or another, but there's also certain family members who don't mean right by us and who do cause us harm and who are a negative influence on our lives and a negative part of our lives that bring us down. And with that being said, it's okay to isolate yourself and distance yourself from those type of family members, even if it is a healthy chunk of that family in general. Because I'll admit, there are certain family members that I know of, whose names I won't mention, that are very toxic, are very negative, have a lot of issues that they never dealt with and refuse to deal with. And as a result, I saw how they turned out, and I saw the kind of people they turned out to be. And I know I'm better off not having much of a relationship with them and keeping my distance from them. If there's a family member that's that toxic, that negative, and is that abusive to you, whether physically or verbally, then straight up, you don't need them in your life. Doesn't matter if it's a sibling, doesn't matter if it's a parent, doesn't matter if it's an aunt or uncle, grandparent, cousin, etc. If they're that much of a piece of shit, and if they treat you that poorly, then cut their ass off. And I know it's not easy. Sometimes you feel like you need to keep that person around because they are your family, or in a sense, maybe you might not be able to imagine what your life would be without them. But at the end of the day, family should look out for you, love you, and be a good influence on you. And if they're doing the opposite, and they get off on being abusive to you, they get off on treating you poorly, they get off on making you feel less of yourself, then that's not family. And more than anything else, that's not somebody you need in your life, period. And if it gets to that point, it's okay to isolate yourself from them. It's okay to keep your distance from them, and more than anything else, it's okay if you don't want to fuck with them anymore. Because the world we live in is not easy. It definitely has its struggles, has its hardships. But when you can't even lean on the people that you should be able to lean on the most, and those people make it all the harder for you to live in this world, then that's a damn shame. And I can't think of anything sadder. So why do we have these toxic family members? Why do we have these people in our family who are negative, abusive? Probably more than anything else, it's probably the environment they grew up in themselves. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it acceptable. But I've learned throughout my life that the reason why certain people turn out a certain way is because of the environment they grew up in and the people they grew up around. And unfortunately, in many cases, a lot of people grew up in environments where they weren't taught any better, and they were taught to behave in a negative, in a toxic way, and in a way that it's abusive to others around them, even if those people around them are people they should love and care about. It could be cheating on your spouse, it could be hitting your kids, it could be talking shit to your kids and making them feel like less of themselves, and in a sense being their first bully. Unfortunately, there are some family members who grew up in that kind of negative environment and they weren't taught any better, and as a result, they grew up to be a certain way and grew up to treat those generations after a certain way, and then that cycle just kept on continuing and continuing until somebody finally realizes that it's wrong. And sometimes it comes to the point where you have to be that somebody. You have to be that person who says, hey, that's enough. Hey, I'm not taking this bullshit no more. And hey, I don't want you in my life anymore. It's not always easy, like I said before. Cutting people out of your life, especially somebody that close to you as a family member, can be a challenging thing to do. But usually, more than anything else, it will do you a lot of good to do so. Because I hate to say it, but I do have certain people in my family that I don't talk to regularly or I don't talk to at all. And in all honesty, considering the kind of people they are, I don't really miss them. And I promise you, if you cut these people out of your life, you won't miss them so much either. It's sad that it comes to that point. It's unfortunate. I personally hate to see families fall apart and families bicker and argue to that degree. But unfortunately, sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to put your foot down and say that I'm not going to be treated this way no more and I don't deserve to be treated this way no more. Yeah, because as I mentioned last week, your family should be a safe place where you can go to and people that you know you can trust, and when you're around them you know that you're in a good place and there's good vibes around. But when it's the opposite and you're not getting that from them, and more than anything else you dread visiting them and dread being around them more than anything else, then chances are those people suck. And it's okay to eventually call them out on it. Because people like to run that statement all the time that, oh, they're still your family. Oh, family's all you have at the end of the day. Oh, you should still be in touch with your family. They're still your family. You can't kick out your family or stop talking to your family. The hell you can't. Doesn't matter if it's family, friends, whoever. Anybody who's treating you poorly to that degree and is that much of a negative influence on your life and is that much of a fucking headache, then you don't have to fuck with them. You don't have to associate with them. You don't have to talk to them, period. Screw them. Yeah, man, because I know, because even speaking for myself, I hate to admit it, but I never really grew up with a positive example of a relationship around me. Whether it was my parents, grandparents, or aunts and uncles, I never really saw like a true like loving relationship and a true loving marriage that I could say was like a good example for me to follow. And I realized as I got older that caused for me to have relationship problems in my own adult life. But now that I realize that and I understand that, I'm doing my very best to break that cycle and not repeat those same mistakes. And that even if I didn't grow up around that loving relationship type stuff, that I will in turn have that loving relationship for other generations to follow and to see as a good example. I'm not really keen on having kids, but if for my nephew and other younger cousins' sakes and all that, I would want to have a relationship that is an example for them to follow. It can suck when your parents aren't together and when your parents are split up. Especially when you don't see one of those parents as often as you'd like to. It's definitely a void you feel and it's definitely an absence that you feel. And in many ways, it's also not fair to that other parent that's around all the time. And for me personally, I've gotten to a point where I don't want to hold any grudges. I don't want to hold on to any hard feelings and try to see the good more than the bad in certain people. But I understand that not everybody's in that place and not everybody's in that space, and everybody's relationship with said family members is different. So that's why I'm just here to say that it's okay if you feel that way. And if it's that bad, it's okay if you want to walk away. Because I talk about how isolation could be a bad thing, isolation could be a negative thing if you do it to yourself at the expense of good things that could come into your life. But if it's a situation like this, it's okay to keep your distance. It's okay to walk away. Because I always maintain one very valuable lesson I learned years ago is that it is better to be alone than to be in bad company. Even if that bad company is your own family. And like I said, it sucks like when you have certain people who just don't want to deal with their issues, don't want to face their issues, don't want to fix them. And then they just trickle down those issues to the people that love them and the people that they should be trying to be better for. And it especially sucks when it's a parent that does that. Like if one of your parents grew up in a home where they were abused physically and verbally, and they just grew up thinking that was normal and the way to do things, and then when they had you, they turned around and did that same shit to you, and then you grew up thinking the same thing, that it's normal and it's all right. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not all right. And usually in cases like that, when a kid grows up in a household where they're abused that way, and then when they're 18, they want nothing to do with their parents shouldn't just stand there looking stupid and wonder, oh, what the hell did I do? You know what the hell you did. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, because if none of a parent's kids want anything to do with that said parent, not one of them, it's clear to see it wasn't the kid's fault. It sucks, but it happens. It's unfortunate when parents and their kids don't have a relationship as the kids get older and the kids distance themselves or whatever have you, but sometimes those parents have it coming. I hate to say it, but sometimes those parents have it coming. Because if you treat your kid like shit for all those many years and are abusive to them physically, verbally, emotionally for that many years, if they turn 18, move out and tell you to go fuck yourself, then you brought that all on yourself. Because you can't just treat your kid like shit for all those years and then wonder why they want nothing to do with you once they turn 18 and move out. You're a fucking idiot if you think so. If you think that it's their fault, or if you think that, oh, I didn't do anything wrong, I don't have any problems, I don't have any issues, it's the kid's fault. Shut the fuck up. And I know I'm getting aggressive here, ladies and gentlemen, but this is a subject I'm very passionate about. I'm lucky enough to have good members of my family that I know care about me and love me, and that I know I can go to whenever I need something, and also I feel good vibes when I'm around them. But I do have certain family members, like I said before, that don't bring me a lot of good vibes when I'm around them. And in all honesty, in some ways, I would dread even having to be around them if ever the time came. And it sucks. It sucks when you feel that way, but if they push you into feeling that way and they push you to that point, then you don't have to apologize for it. Because one thing my mother always instilled in my brother and I is to break the cycle. To not repeat the mistakes of her generation and the generation before them and so and so. I didn't always agree with her approach, but now that I've gotten older, I definitely understand that message of breaking the cycle and not repeating those same mistakes. But unfortunately, there are others who don't understand that and continue to follow the same cycle that their parents followed, do the same negative shit that their parents did, and over time just produce another generation of negativity and toxicness. But I'm here to tell you that if you're in that position to break the cycle, then break that shit. You don't have to repeat those same mistakes. You don't have to be an abusive piece of shit like one of your parents were or one of your other family members were. You don't have to be that way. You can be better. You can rise above that. You can show them that there's a better way, that there's an alternative, and that toxic bullshit is for the birds. Yeah, because people want to talk about broken families and why families in America aren't as close anymore and tight-knit anymore. A big part of it, why, is because some people in the family realize that other people in the family are just not good people and they don't want to be around them anymore, and they want to isolate themselves from that shit and get as far away from it as possible. And that's okay, because I'm all for family sticking together and being together as long as it's good family that actually genuinely loves you and that genuinely wants to do right by you. But if you're just staying with them to keep up appearances, or just because, oh, they're still family, I should still love them even though they're assholes, then no, that's not right. Because no matter who it is, you do not have to be around people who treat you that way and make you feel that way. And also another form of family that kind of is toxic and negative is the ones that take advantage of you. The ones you only hear from when they want something or they're looking for some kind of favor. But once you do that favor for them, then nowhere to be found. And whenever you need anything from them, they're also nowhere to be found. It's okay to go to someone for help if you really need it, but if you're not willing to return the favor and not willing to at least help them out a little bit when they're in a jam, that says a lot about someone's character. And honestly, people like that are very hard to respect. So it's also okay to distance yourselves from them too. If you're a kid growing up around, parents who treat you like shit, or a sibling that treats you like shit, or grandparents, or aunts and uncles, I know it's hard to stand up to it when you're a kid and speak out against it when you're a kid, But once you get to a certain age and if that treatment is still going on, you have the right to tell them to go fuck themselves. And that you deserve better than the bullshit they put you through. Because no matter how long you've known them, no matter what part of the family they are, toxic assholes are still toxic assholes, even if they are a part of the family. And you don't have to associate and deal with those toxic assholes if you don't want to. One thing you have to be very mindful for, especially as you get older, is how a lot of those members of your family act and behave, and whether or not it's a good or a bad thing. You have to be very mindful and very observant of that. Because like my older brother, my older cousin used to tease me a lot when I was a kid and fuck with me a lot in that sense, but it wasn't anything to the point where I would take it personal and I would not want to be friends with them anymore now that I'm older. Like that kind of small dumb shit, it's not something I'm going to hold a grudge over. But if it's something to the point where they really hurt you and they really did something to damage you physically and mentally, emotionally, and that treatment goes on for years and years, and they never apologize for it, they never own up to it, then you need to understand that that shit is not okay, and it's also not okay for you to repeat that same cycle. So I urge you, if you're in that position now where you have family members you don't like, or family members that are a pain in the ass, or that you know are no good for you or no good to have around you, then it's okay to cut their asses off. It is okay. Even if other people in the family criticize you for it and shit on you for it, who gives a damn what they think? At the end of the day, you have to protect your own inner peace and your own mental health and your own personal space. And when those people violate your personal space, you got to tell them that shit will not be tolerated. Doesn't matter who it is. And more than anything else, just realize one thing. Whether it's family or friends or whoever else, the people most deserving of being cut out of your life are the ones who hand you the scissors in the first place. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed my discussion today about toxic family and how it's okay to isolate yourself from them. If you want to listen to more episodes of this podcast or follow me in general, you can look up this podcast on YouTube as well as Spreaker. Look up The Isolation Cabin, Kurt Cadet. Also, you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. My first and last name, Kurt Cadet. Tell me what you think about the show, what you like about it, don't like about it, and maybe ways I can improve. But regardless, I'm going to be here for a long time talking about this issue, effects it has on us, whether positive or negative, and what we can do to have a better handle on it and have a better quality of life going forward. So until next time, this is Kurt Cadet for another edition of The Isolation Cabin, and I'll see you guys next week. My birthday week, actually. Take care.